I saw a quote that was basically saying more people don't achieve their goals out of just fear of being in discomfort than actual fear of competence.
I think a general motto they had early in my career is just get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Today's episode guest is a key player in the Web3 space, serving as head of strategy and business development at Doodles, where he's shaping the future of blockchain-powered entertainment and digital collectibles. With a vision to expand the brand beyond NFTs and onboard millions through immersive experiences and strategic partnerships, he's redefining what it means to build in Web3. Introducing Austin Hurwitz.
One, I guess, piece of advice you'd give someone doing that 9 to 5 and they're clocking in and out, but they want to do something more meaningful.
Don't wait for permission to do it. Don't knock on the door to get into some place of some club. Kick the door in.
Has it changed your actual life decisions?
I've always struggled with people who work to live. If you're doing something as a job, you should love that thing.
Welcome back to the Lock-In or Log Off podcast, where I speak to builders, creators, and investors to understand how they spotted the opportunity and how they navigated their way to success. We're joined by Austin from Doodles. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Going really well. How are you doing?
Good, man. I mean, what a week or what a month it's been for you guys. How's NFT Paris been for you?
It's been great. This is my first time coming to NFT Paris. They do a phenomenal job putting this together. This speaking engagements have been great. The side events, the energy, it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, the turnout's been incredible. It's my first time at NFT Paris as well. And it's been amazing. It's been one of the better crypto events I've been to in a while. But before we jump into everything Doodles related, because there's a lot that people want to get into. I like tapping into a little bit of the people that build in the space. So who was Austin before Web3? Giving people a little bit of context of, I guess your background and everything like that.
Yeah, man. I've been in Web3 since 2021. Prior to that, I've had a whole career in music and entertainment. Worked at Amazon Music for 5 years, negotiating contracts with record labels. So I was responsible for getting Frank Ocean on Amazon Music Unlimited, which is the Spotify competitor. And then I led all of the global expansion of Amazon Music Unlimited and Prime Music into Australia and Mexico and all the licensing for that. And I was an artist manager for a few years. We did a tour based out of Seattle. We did a tour in Germany because he blew up on YouTube and different content creators would use his music.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I did that on the side while I was at Amazon, and then I went down to LA and I led product for an independent music distributor by this guy Troy Carter, who is a music industry legend. He was signed by Will Smith out of Philly when he was 17 years old. He went on tour with Jay-Z and Puff Daddy, who put that to the side. I'm sure he has plenty of stories.
And, a lot of stories.
And then he was responsible for helping to take Spotify public. And then he also was a manager for Lady Gaga and John Legend and Charlie Puth. And then he built an independent music distributor for independent artists and labels to get their music on Amazon and Spotify and do all of this analytics and distribution. And then I helped also, besides taking that product from 0 to 1, I built our whole Web3 arm. So built what I think is the first independent music membership, where it was an NFT that gave you access to our distribution software, our community of artists, the events that we would do in LA and New York. That's kind of the journey. And then I found my way through that to Doodles, and we can kind of dive into what that looked like. But I'm a industry baby at heart, entertainment through and through.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a pretty creative background as such. I guess going even further back from the professional thing, what led you into such a creative industry and the music? Were you always very passionate about music when you grew up? Is that always what you knew you wanted to get into? How did you get to that stage in life?
Yeah, are you familiar with the show Entourage?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if I was about to age myself. But in college, we would watch Entourage every week, and there's a manager, Ari Gold. It was this very bombastic, high-strung manager who gets, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
He gets shit done. And I just remember looking at him, I didn't want to be the talent. I wanted to be the guy in the chair that pulled all the strings. And so I actually left college thinking that I was going to be a manager or an agent on the entertainment side.
Yeah.
For actors and things like that. But that is a really hard grind that is not merit-based. It's often you go into the mailroom at one of these big talent agencies and you eat shit for a few years and you work your way onto a desk, and then maybe you get some clients.
Yeah.
And I was broke. Like, I had so much college debt. I came from a family that was lower middle class. And so it wasn't like I could ask for money, and the idea of taking a minimum wage job after school was not it. And so I had interned at Procter & Gamble in college. I was like, oh, this e-commerce thing, like the CPG thing is interesting. That's kind of how I found my way to Amazon. I was like, let me work here for a couple of years, pay off my debt, and then I'll go and be an agent. And during that time, I started talking to agents. I had worked at William Morris, CAA, Endeavor, and consistently the feedback I kind of got was like, this is not for the faint of heart. This is very much a services business. There is no turning this off.
Yeah.
You are not, and I learned this through being an artist manager on the side. It's not just you're the CEO of a business. It's like you're the shrink. You're the person going to get the groceries and everything. Like, you do everything for this person.
Yeah.
And that didn't sound like the balance that I wanted. It didn't sound like a merit-based system that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then I kind of leaned into music because it felt more pure to me.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love music? I have met a few people who don't love music.
That got to be crazy.
Crazy, right? Literally, I was talking to someone who said it was like, oh, it's just background music to me. I can't.
Well, you can't
understand.
I can't understand how you can't enjoy any type of music. Like, surely it's like house, or like surely there's one genre that you vibe with. Like, that's
it is the soundtrack to my life.
Yeah.
It is. I take immense pride in finding new music, discovering music, and following an artist throughout their career. There's a pride that you feel
when you find an early artist and you see them grow. There's that. Yeah, you
feel like you're a part of the journey. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to that in NFTs and brands and the communities that we're building here.
Yeah.
But that relationship between fandom and music has always been something that's really special to me. Like, I love going to live shows and just being immersed in it.
Yeah.
And I think more broadly, I don't know. I think I had a pretty nihilistic streak in my 20s of just what is any of this for? We're just all specks on the planet and then we die. And I think for me, what I got, the other side of that I got to was just well, if everything is meaningless, then just moving people to emotion, making them feel something while they're here.
Yeah.
There's nothing more pure than that. And that's what entertainment is to me. It's one of the more pure forms of expression.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I've gravitated towards it.
That's an amazing perspective. I mean, I think having that realization that everyone, it's a beautiful but also a scary realization when you realize how small you are and everything you do.
Yeah.
It's damn, it doesn't actually mean that much, right? You're here to have fun. You're here to challenge yourself and really grow into who you are. But I guess with that perspective change, you mentioned that's where you see entertainment as something so beautiful. But has that changed how you perceive things you do in your life in terms of your day-to-day, or even stuff when you decide, okay, do I want to do that job that maybe 12 hours a day? Has it changed your actual life decisions?
Yeah. I've always struggled with people who work to live.
Yeah.
Because that concept doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
If you're doing something as a job that you're going to be spending the lion's share of your time every week on, you should love that thing.
Yeah.
You should be really passionate about it. And I know that is a privileged place to exist in. I'm very fortunate to be in a position that I can do something that I wake up excited to do every day, that I am really, it's not that it's not stressful, but I live for this shit.
Yeah.
And the idea that I would just go to a 9 to 5 and clock in, clock out, get my paycheck, whatever, so that the rest of my life could be good.
Yeah.
That's not living 100% of your life.
Yeah.
So that's, I think what has really resonated with me. I won't do things that I'm not passionate about. I do stuff I don't like. You pick up the trash at work, you're not beneath anything. And so, but that comes from an ownership mentality. And at the end of the day, do you find purpose in what you do is everything to me.
How, I think I totally agree. And I've been very fortunate. My old job was okay, but it was very much I didn't have passion to push myself in it. And then I left and now Web3, I love everything I do within this industry. Cool. But a lot of people, especially people who love music and stuff like that, they don't know the direction to get into that industry or build a career in any of these industries. So they end up settling a bit. What is one, piece of advice you'd give someone, not necessarily just in music, but someone that wants to find their purpose and maybe they're doing that 9 to 5 and they're clocking in and out, but they want to do something more meaningful? What's one piece of advice you could give them?
Don't wait for permission to do it. don't knock on the door to get into some place of some club that is then going to tell you that you've made it. Like, kick the door in. You know, you have to do it for yourself. And I can look at my way of getting into music. For me, it was, okay, there are positions at Amazon, maybe I can apply. It's really hard, particularly entry level, to get any music position. Like, they're looking for experience for an entry level job. Like, it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
So you realize, like, okay, I have to take this upon myself and actually go and get that experience on my own. And so that's why I started artist managing. I literally told everyone I could think of in Seattle, where I was at the time, that I wanted to be an artist manager.
Yeah.
And eventually one of them was like, oh, my brother is like looking for a manager. And then I talked to him and I liked the music and I started managing him.
Yeah.
The leverage completely changed in all conversations I had around music when I could point to the experience that I was willing to go out and take. And I think now in 2025, there's just no excuse for not taking that step in any endeavor of just like, you have the educational tools and resources, you have the world supercomputer in your pocket every day. Like, just go and try and break stuff, you know, and just give it a shot.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw a quote that was basically saying like, more people don't achieve their goals out of just basically fear of being in discomfort than actual like fear of competence. Yeah. So it's not actually, it doesn't tend to be a limit of like, you don't have the ability to get this. It tends to just be the ability, like they don't have like they don't put themselves in the position and they don't kind of go out there and they're basically too scared for the discomfort to actually achieve it. And when I saw it, I was like, it's so true that like most people just don't achieve it because, I guess they don't want to go against the norm. Yeah. The fear of failure is probably a big part. And I think, the more and more time goes on, like, I mean, man, Web3, the more and more like time I spend in this industry is like, if you're interested in any vertical, whether it's music, fashion, sports, everything like that, even in this industry, there's like so much opportunity to pursue that as like a full-time career that could likely be something that you love on a day-to-day.
Yeah. I mean, I think a general motto that I certainly had early in my career is just get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it sounds cliche, but the idea that like, if you're comfortable every day, like you're not pushing yourself in a way that you should be. Like your 20s, your 30s are all about learning and growing. And I remember when I decided to leave Amazon, part of it was I didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. Yeah. I had been negotiating contracts. I had learned everything I could about label licensing and publishing. And I felt like I had this domain expertise where I looked around and everyone was 10 years my senior and I could see my path. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I won't like learn it maybe incrementally a little bit here. I can take on more responsibility, whatever. Yeah. But I didn't feel in my core that I was really, really challenging myself. Yeah. And when you're young and you have no dependence, like that's the time to go and, fuck up. And it's okay. Like that means that you're growing. So I think the fear of failure holds a lot of people back. And you just have to know that failure is like the first step in learning. Yeah.
And I feel like the more you fail, the more comfortable you get with 100%. It. Like the more and more stuff I do and like maybe it doesn't go right and stuff like that, I become so comfortable when things go wrong. I'm like, okay, like you become comfortable that you can handle when failure happens. And like that is a beautiful like comfort to have. Yeah. But going into like, you've obviously had some amazing experience in the corporate world and music and everything like that. What were some of your biggest learnings from your time within the corporate music world?
Man, lot of learnings. I feel very blessed that I've always kind of been at the intersection of art and technology. My superpower, as other people have told me, is my ability to translate between art and technology. And so whether it was leading products, negotiating contracts, like I always was kind of like the linchpin between different parts of the organization and communicating, whether it be when I was at this independent music distributor, Venice, it was communicating the product wants and needs to executive leadership, but then gathering requirements from like artists and labels and being able to speak both of those languages. At Doodles, it's like very similar, right? And a lot of that creative expression, how do you then translate that into a business? And so I think the number one lesson that I have tried to like really lean into is just being a generalist. Yeah. For as long as possible. I think particularly in a world in which like you can go and learn anything. Everyone has ChatGPT. Yeah. It's more about critical thinking skills. It's more about being able to relate to people, the soft skills with people, to just have very low ego and having a beginner's mindset into everything you do, I think is incredibly valuable. But being that translator is indispensable. And also in the corporate world, very grateful. And I would recommend, a lot of people take like a big corporate job.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a contrarian take at an NFT conference.
Yeah.
But you get to learn from the best that have already made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And you learn all of their formulas for what it takes to win. You learn, how to think about values, how to think about vision, how to think about inputs into the business and how that determines outputs and not to focus on the outputs. You learn all these frameworks that you can then take and impart onto other organizations. And then you kind of learn, okay, this may work at a 200,000, 300,000 person company.
Yeah.
But what of these learnings can I take for a 10, 15, 20, 30 person company?
Yeah.
Where do I need to be flexible with that? And where should I be rigid?
Yeah.
So I thought that was like really, really valuable. I think some people struggle with the transition because they see structure and it almost becomes like a crutch for them. And then when they have no structure, like I can't swim.
Yeah.
But for me, it gave me the confidence and the ability to put those frameworks into action to create the structure around me when there is none.
Yeah. And I think that's an amazing perception because I think there is so much to learn. Like, I don't know, I feel like Web3, it does kind of, I guess, look at Web2 and the corporate world and be like, like they don't know what they're doing. Or, that's not the future. Web3 is the future. But they, like you say, like they've done it and they kind of transformed what we have previously seen in whether it's the IP world or whether it's the media world. And they did pioneer back then. And so what if they're not kind of going down on this necessary transition? But in terms of, you obviously had like amazing learnings there. What are some of the most impactful learnings you had there that you've been able to actually put into place at Doodles?
Oh man, great question. I think for me, really aligning on a North Star vision.
Yeah.
What is it that is immovable about why we exist? What is our purpose for being here?
Yeah.
At Amazon in particular, everyone knew that their mission was to be the most customer-centric company in the world.
Yeah.
You could repeat that to anyone at any time, and they lived it. It was a lived-in experience where, like, there will literally be meetings with an empty chair to represent the customer.
Yeah.
That's how you live values into your day-to-day work. And I think we literally a few weeks ago went through a vision and mission exercise where we collectively talked about like why do we exist? Why do we do this every day? Not why do we think what do we think would be successful in making a company, but like what values do we hold that even if the market turned against them, we would still say no, like we will find a new market, we'll find a new opportunity rather than acquiesce to the market. And through that it came a lot about like creative liberation and freedom. Like we are all artists in our own right. And how do we really liberate people from like the monotony of the day to day? How do we unlock the creativity within everyone? Because we all start as artists, as kids, and then the world tells us that we're not that thing. It puts these limiters on us, and we feel our job is to kind of take those off. Even if the market said, no, we don't value artistry anymore, we would still say, we don't care. That's why we're here. And this idea of like escapism and otherworldly, like coming into something else, I think is like really important for us as well. So like mission, vision, it's like corny stuff, but it really matters. And I've seen when particularly startups don't have that, and you start like, it's okay in the beginning because you usually have a really small team. You're with each other all the time. And so like what you write down isn't as important as like what you do in your actions, but the team gets bigger. And then it starts fractionalizing, and then you're not able to be together all the time. You're not able to be on every meeting. And so people start to wonder like, well, wait, like, am I aligned with, are we all trying to do the same thing here? Do I have a different vision for this company than, someone else? So getting on the same page, I think is super important.
I think that's a great point. I think we see it so much in Web3 where just a lot of brands pivot very regularly, and like you can kind of see like those are the ones that never really form a really strong community or anything like that, because there's nothing truly to get behind, because like you got behind the last idea but now there's a new idea. It's like But with that being said, we work in an industry that it is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
How do you balance maintaining the values,
Yes.
but still kind of embracing the innovation that we see with new tech or new transitions within the way NFTs evolve, like everything like that?
I love this question. So I think you need to be, when it comes to like vision, you need to be like a battleship. That means that you like are really sturdy.
Yeah.
You're moving in a singular direction. And if you are going to change, you move very slowly, right? Because a vision is like, should be pretty immovable. It's not about like individual tactics. It's what we want to see in the world, our pie in the sky for a decade, 20 years, 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the tactics and the strategy for achieving that vision, you need to be a speedboat.
Yeah.
You need to be able to move very nimbly. You need to be able to experiment. You need to be able to move fast, break shit.
Yeah.
That's where constantly iterating and trying new things is really important. And I think what you see with a lot of bloated companies, legacy companies, is that their tactics start to represent that battleship.
Yeah.
And because there's so much bureaucracy that it's really hard to make decisions in a quick way.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. But when you make quick decisions in Web3 from like a tactical perspective and stuff like that, it can be quite it can be quite damaging to a brand. Like brands are so sensitive in Web3 in terms of like one decision can turn everyone
Totally
against the brand and everything like that. So like, how do you guys manage, I guess, your risk appetite for those innovations in Web3? Because like, I mean, we've had AI come into things recently. Yeah. We've had previous like metaverse last cycle. Like, how do you decide, from a risk perspective, what's the right decision, what's a wrong decision? Are you guys like high on the risk curve? I actually saw Bernto's post recently around like him becoming CEO. He was like, you guys are going to be risk on.
Yeah.
So like, is that the thought?
Yeah, I think generally, like I had tweeted something to the effect of move fast, break things. And that is taken from an early Mark Zuckerberg quote, like early days of Facebook, when it was 6 engineers in a Palo Alto house, where it was just, we're gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
And we can't hold ourselves to a standard that we think we're never gonna make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, but velocity is so much more important in this space than getting every single thing right. And so long as we learn from our mistakes and we continue to just iterate and improve, I would much rather bet on velocity than bet on, very long product cycles and decision-making cycles and fussing over every decision.
Yeah.
That's the shit that kills startups. Yeah. Like, you don't have time. Like, you have a burn rate and you need to move to make decisions. And that is the benefit that startups have versus bigger companies, right? Like, there is not all that bureaucracy. So if you're smaller with less resources and you take more time, you're never gonna win that. But I think ultimately for us, it's, do we have conviction? And I had just given a talk where we want to make sure collectively as a leadership team, everything we do is a fuck yes from everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we're all gonna agree. There's oftentimes, again, an Amazon principle, this concept of disagree and commit.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't see it, but I will commit to doing this anyways because everyone else who I trust is leaned in and doing it. And that happens. Yeah. But you want to have strong conviction wherever possible and certainly have a majority of people having strong conviction. So it's not testing and trying every new thing. If we're going to build in this space, I think my responsibility in leading strategy is like, I do have my hands and everything. I do try every like risk on all the way out at the early adopter part of the curve, part of the tech.
Yeah.
Because if you're not living it, how can you expect to build within it?
Yeah.
That's like the whole idea of speaking at culture, speaking to culture, being culture.
Yeah.
You can't be culture if you're not in it.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of like where I spend a lot of my time.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. In Web3, like the teams I see most disconnected are like, you have to have some part of your team like within the trenches to understand like the new narratives, then actually testing out those, like go create your own AI agent and see how it works. Like, is it actually like something that is worthwhile exploring? And like having someone in that team, I think is so valuable of like just being able to like experiment with all the new tech that comes out, have a real finger on the pulse for like Web3. And I think that's really important from a strategy perspective. But let's dive into the Doodles side of things.
Do it.
So many questions to dive into, but let's go let's go back a little bit, especially to one specific period where Doodles decided to be not an NFT project. What was the thought process behind that? What can you share about that specific strategic decision and communication perspective?
Yeah, so many learnings. This would probably take a 5-hour podcast to get through all of them. I'll start with the intention, which I know Poop really well at this point. Consider him a friend. Know where his heart was in that statement, and it wasn't a rejection of Web3 as a lot of people took it. And I think we learned a lot in terms of communication and how we portray these messages. But it was more speaking to, we need to be bigger and grow beyond Web3, as all brands need to be successful. And it's a little ironic looking back on that period, hearing everyone else talk about how they're not an NFT project. People that are releasing, their brands, they're they're trying to be global brands. They're trying to be franchises. They're trying to grow outside the space while bringing people back to the space. So I think we learned a lot in terms of how to portray those messages, but I also think we got comfortable being contrarian. We were multi-chain at a time where no one thought that was a good idea. We communicated that we were bigger than just NFTs at a time where it was incredibly antagonistic towards that, and so being successful in this, you have to be comfortable being contrarian often. If you're in the consensus, good chance you're way too late or you're going to miss the next trend. We try to create trends. We don't try to follow them. And so, I think there was a lot from that era that we learned about. Our marketing needed a huge upgrade, and we are now fortunate to have some phenomenal people on the team. Our PR and comms and everything needed to grow up. But I think people need to also remember that this was an NFT project. 3 guys and a very small, I would call it a 1 pizza team. Usually you have 2 pizza teams that are 8 people. It was a 1 pizza team. And I don't even know that they would finish the pizza. That were learning on the fly. And, they that time was crazy. They became rock stars overnight. 2021 was a wild time, and you're not going to get it all right. It's never going to happen. But the key thing is, can you learn from those mistakes? And I think we did. I think we took our licks. I think we really leaned in with the community after that. We learned, who were the tourists and who were here for the long haul. We recommitted ourselves to showing that we are a community first brand. And we've come out the other side of it so much stronger.
I think you guys navigated the bear market really well. I mean, you're a brand that has done some of the most amazing collaborations and really pushed the limits of what we've seen in IP and in Web3 capable of, with McDonald's, Crocs, Adidas, all of them. I think everyone has so much respect for the brand now, even even the way that might have happened. I think people can forgive very quickly in Web3 the second they start to see the vision itself. So it's the same thing. Sometimes you've got to know what's better for the consumer than they know themselves. And I think you guys done a really good job for that. But going into one of the recent announcements that you guys had of the change of CEO, are you able to give a bit of insight into how that all happened and why the transition happened? Burnt Toast now being
sure, as much as I can. One, just filled with immense amount of gratitude for Julian. He's a major reason that I joined Doodles to begin with. I had met him when he was president of Billboard, and I was at my last company in LA. He actually got me into a sandbox party with Tulip, one of our co-founders, and his now wife. Sandbox party, South by Southwest, where the person who got him in is now our head of comms. So we all met the same night, which is really funny. And Shirley, she's phenomenal. We're working together now, and nothing but praise for her. She's literally been walking me around everywhere. But I think ultimately it was ending on good terms. We feel incredibly grateful for the time that Julian spent with us. And we're really excited about the direction that Scott is taking the company. I think there's a misconception that Burnt Toast went away. Burnt Toast never went away. He was always leading the creative direction at Golden Wolf and more broadly at Doodles overall. He was a key decision maker in everything that we've brought to market, and consulted and part of that executive team from the very start. He's just expanding into a more business focused function. And I will say that early returns have been phenomenal. I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. It truly is I feel I've worked enough that I know how rare it is to have a leader that has very low ego and a beginner's mind to everything that they do. Usually the older you get, you see a lot of people who think they know everything and they're very stubborn and arrogant and are just like, this is the way that it's doing it. We're doing it this way because I know. Like when you push them on, it's like, well, this is how it's done. I've never seen that with him. It's always a like strong curiosity and leaning on subject matter experts and trusting the team. Like, this is why we brought you in here. You know, you lead on these strategies, you go and execute. And he really like uplifts and brings people up. And I think the community can also just feel how much he cares about them and how much we've really tried to get that core Web3 grittiness back. I mean, this week we were literally running around watching him like graffiti and tag, you know, areas of Paris. We were hiding vinyls that had been spray painted. We're just getting back to that scrappy feel that I think is really core to like being iterative and being one with the community. And we still have, you know, that quality bar. We still have that level of professionalism that like brands expect when they come to work with us. But we haven't lost our soul. And BT has always been the creative spirit of Doodles. And so now everyone else getting to see what we get to see every day, I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I have to say, since the transition happened, I feel like there has been a quite strong transition of your guys' presence, like, and focus around Web3 culture and community. Like, I felt it on the timeline, even coming to do this, like a lot of different things on like in multiple variables, like showing that you guys seem to be, I guess more Web3 community focused now. Is there any other transitions from like a business perspective that you guys have gone under with the change in CEO? Obviously, like his post said, risk on, like he's ready to disrupt, like everything like that. Is there a big transition in terms of business, I guess, approach to Web3?
Approach, I would say there's certainly been a slight difference in that, like we just really want to get back to being community first, and when the community wins, we will win. And talk a lot about internally, we did a bit of reflection last year. We're really proud of all of the products that we brought to market, the quality, you know, the way that we were able to elevate not only us but broader Web3 on a stage that no one had been before. I mean, we were in 14,000 McDonald's, 100 million cups distributed. They had never worked with a brand of our size before, and the way that collectively Web3 showed up for us, the pictures of people going in the drive-thru with stacks of McDonald's cups, like it really meant a lot. And we had felt like we had arrived in a certain perspective. We went to Toronto Film Festival, you know, and we released our short film on the same stage as the likes of like Pharrell releasing the Lego Movie. Like we had kind of kicked the door open and weren't waiting for other people, media, brands to give us validation. We were taking it for ourselves. So in that respect, we were really proud of the work that we did. But we also recognize that there were certain products or executions that maybe like the well dried up a little bit on us, and we needed to get back to creating things that we really loved, because at the end of the day, like we are the community. Like I didn't talk about this that much, but like I joined from the community. I bought my Doodle the week of mint. I remember at the NFT NYC in 2021 in October, showing Burnt Toast the pickle that I had bought literally on my phone, like a week after, like, dude, I got this. And he was so excited. First time I ever met him. So like this ship means a lot to us. Like these are my friends that I want to win. You know, I really care, and we collectively really care about that have like stuck with us through all the highs and lows. And we want to release products that they love because they love them, not because they think someone else is going to come in and all this mass adoption, which will happen. If we do dope shit, people will want to take part of it.
If one person starts to love the brand, there's a high likelihood that other people are going to love the brand.
Exactly. But like, we're not going to placate or try to play this like mass adoption game for other people and other cohorts to love it. We know if we create things that we love, that our community loves, other people will come in, and we'll do it in a way we've proven now that like we can create frictionless onboarding experiences. You know, we can bring them in a way that doesn't require them to have a seed phrase and do all these different things. And we've built the rails to now build just great crypto agnostic experiences. And if you're in crypto, it's going to be really exciting. We're going to have ways for you to participate in that. And if you're not, you're still going to be able to partake in the brand and enjoy it. But no matter what, we need to make sure that our community that is here today really loves what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's that's an amazing way to perceive it, and I think your guys' approach, especially coming around to like going into the roots of who you were in Web3, even like that small things of like going around Paris and everything like that. I think that does throw me back to 2021, and like it's creative, it's like it gets people excited, and there's a really nice dynamic to it. But speaking about Web3 specifically, you guys have announced your token yesterday. Yeah, huge announcement. The market right now is very interesting in terms of NFT IPs launching tokens, what that looks like. How long have you guys been thinking about launching a token? Because obviously, we saw Pengu, we've seen anime.
Yeah.
How long has that been in the works for you guys?
Gosh, so at least a year, and it might be even longer than that. I remember last summer, so not this past summer, but the summer before, so I guess a year and a half ago, we were reading like the Delphi digital report at the time, in which it was like, all right, the thesis for 2024 is everyone is going to launch app specific chains, and and everyone's going to launch like their own token. And we could see the writing on the wall, and we had a really great discussion around, were we ready to take that step? Did we want to go full bore into it at that moment? Or did we want to focus instead on making sure that we had built like a lovable brand that people wanted irrespective of a token, that we could build a real home for them, an affinity, so that they stuck around? Because what you're talking about right now, there is so much rotation happening. It is PvP, and people are buying and holding things for a few hours and then moving on. And there is this thing where I think people are dying for real products from real teams that are going to have staying power. And we've, I think, proven that we do, and we have, and we're going to continue to do that. So we had to put in the work in order to really, let that happen. And also we wanted to see the market mature a bit in terms of, can we make this experience easier for people to participate in? Can the random person who has like $5 participate in this, and they don't need to jump through a bunch of hoops and bridge and do all these things. And so we watched everything. Certainly like the new administration, we paid a lot of attention to that as well, in terms of like timing and figuring it out, because it is a one-way door of putting this out into the world. So if you're short-term thinking about it, it's just going to bite you in the ass as a brand. It will ultimately bite your community in the ass. So we've been very intentional. We also felt like now is the perfect time to announce. Notice that we haven't announced TGE. I think a lot of people saw the announcement. They're like, this is a terrible time. Like, everyone is rotating. What are you doing? So for clarity, announcement is not TGE, folks. And we will let you know when it's coming out. But the idea of like doing it now at a time where like we have the reinvigoration of the brand, we've elevated the brand, and it's a little bit darker and feels more akin to what we're all looking for and excited about, at a place that is known at the intersection of art and technology in Paris, and revolution and like creative liberation. It was like too perfect not to do it here and be able to celebrate with our community last night. It's been incredible.
I think the beautiful place to do it, I like you say, I think it's very fitting. And I think that approach is the best way to do it. Is like you said, it's one way door. Once you put it out there, you can't, like, it's almost impossible to pull it back, and like it can really drag down a brand. We've seen it happen so much in terms of like dilution of brand and wrong timing, and in some cases greed and everything like that. So it is very dangerous. I guess the big question is, like, Luca positions Pengu as like a culture coin. He doesn't, not meme coin, not utility token, culture as such. Where does the Doodles coin sit in terms of like, is it going to be a culture coin, or where does it sit in terms of?
Yeah, it's funny. So I just did a roundtable with Z, Luca, and Nick from Planosaurs, and Luca was saying, he really identifies Pengu now as a social currency, and I'll let him speak to what he really means by that. And then Z has been really clear of like, a lot of meme coins never elevate to being a culture coin. They want anime to be a culture coin. Obviously, there's a whole product suite and utility and things, and they've already released some of that I'm really excited about seeing. And both of their visions, we're active cheerleaders for both of them. They have been for us, and want them to do really well. For us, it's challenging legally, like what I'm technically allowed to say, because, and you've seen this with a lot of teams, right? Like you can't talk about utility until the utility is there, and then you can speak retroactively about it. But what I will say is, like, we believe in having products that our community is excited about and are incentivized to use. We have been building products for 3 years now. We've been building them on base. We're really excited about the development of the studio. We remain committed to creating this gamified collecting ecosystem that people can participate in, and, you know, grow their sense of digital identity and their place within the brand, and be able to participate in the brand as well, and have that parasocial relationship. So all of those commitments remain. We have a lot more to talk about in terms of, irrespective of the token, our plans for the product that I think a lot of people will be very excited about. The team has been really heads down in building out what we think is a very unique take on how IP can really grow in this intersection of crypto and brand building and AI. We've been leaning in around that for well over a year now. And so when we are finally ready to talk about that stuff, I think people are going to be excited. But when it comes to the token itself, you know, there's ultimately a way for the token to losslessly capture attention in a way that non-fungible assets cannot. We are rate limited by the amount of NFTs that we can create, right? If we were to create more, it dilutes the collectibles that we already have. Simple supply and demand. Tokens, fungible tokens, are not rate limited. And so as we think about, we want this brand to be enjoyed and loved and experienced by as many people as possible, it's a lot easier of a sell to say, buy, you know, a dude, literally like one, and be a part of this journey with us. You know, watch as we continue to develop, join the community, make new friends, you know, participate in the drops that we're doing, and grow this with us, and get a front row seat and co-create with us, make something, is a lot easier of a expansion of the brand than it would be on the non-fungible side.
It's a much easier way to distribute, right? And get more advocates for your brand involved. And the second they have a financial asset or like a token towards that brand, there is a much stronger relationship, which I think a lot of people have realized the transition of like NFTs there's a barrier to their growth. It's great for like building a core community. Incredible for that. But yeah, to scale it, there is a need for kind of finding new ways to bring people on board.
And I'm really interested to see as the data continues to come out, because people want to prescribe an outcome to a meta that is literally 2 months old in terms of IPs that are releasing tokens. I think we need to evaluate these on a much longer time horizon. Like, let's see what this looks like in 1, 2, 3 years, because the ability to rapidly grow your community and where those fungible token holders sit versus the overlap between fungible and non-fungible, I'm really fascinated by. Because I do think affinity for those that own non-fungible is just always going to be stronger. There's a sense of digital identity and status that you can get by owning, you know, a representation versus just the fungible. So that I'm really interested to see the interplay of. Ultimately, it's my hope that we build more products for the people that are on the fungible side to come into the non-fungible. That would be a great win, I think.
Funnel will be products and apps and so forth into the token, into the NFTs is how you see it. That's fascinating. As we were kind of coming to the end, whenever we've seen disruptive media and IP come to market, there's been 4 kind of characteristics that they all tend to have. It's like a disruptive business model, a new business model. They're tech driven, they're culturally relevant. And the fourth one was, what was the fourth one? Go with those 3 for now. I've forgotten the fourth one. But from like the business model and the kind of tech driven side of things, Web3, new business model and the cultural relevancy. How do you see those tying in?
Man, so the new business model, I think, it's a new relationship with an end consumer, right? Or I should say end user, because traditionally legacy brands have treated their communities as consumers. And that is a single direction relationship in which you have a megaphone speaking to people and you're hoping that they consume on the other side of it, that they watch and pay attention to you. there is this bi-directional relationship that exists when you give people digital ownership and they feel that they are a true part of the brand's growth and success. Completely changes the dynamic. In a lot of ways, it puts a lot more stress on us as builders, right? Like we have all of these stakeholders that are really leaned in and want to participate and have opinions. But at the other end, like I come from a product background where I would have killed to get this much feedback.
Yeah.
You usually have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And people are paying you.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. And it's something we do not take for granted. And I think often why legacy brands can't come in and compete is because they view what we're doing as a revenue stream, not a new business model, like you said. It's not a new way of doing business. And that is really special. I think you can't really lean into it unless you're native and really get what we're doing here. And then the cultural disruption, I think for us, we really want to focus on putting up a mirror to society at large. We have a unique perspective on the world. We want to be able to convey that a lot more this year. If you go back to Burnt Toast, like early works, there's always this like level of playful cynicism.
Yeah.
The first piece I ever saw from him that was animated by another person on our team, Alfie Motion, is an hourglass of a person on a beach.
Yeah.
They're in the hourglass and the sand is sinking into a grave and they
That's
fall through.
Yeah.
Fall through into the grave, get buried by the sand, and then it flips. And that was the moment I was like, oh, there's an edge to this.
Yeah.
Like it's not, this beautiful palette is a way to tell a little bit darker, edgy stories because we're not just joy. We're the combination of all emotions. We should feel the freedom to have all of those emotions and express those emotions. And so you'll just see a lot more of that in terms of disruption of like things that when you're scrolling the timeline make you stop and think.
Yeah.
And just kind of sit with that and be like, oh, that maybe made me feel a little uncomfortable. Like that, you're going to see more of that.
I'm excited for that. And the fourth one is the network effect.
Yes.
Which I assume would come through like a little bit with the assets themselves and the tokens. But what is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think what we're building is networked, particularly because it is so social.
Yeah.
So people see other people wanting to participate. That validates their participation.
Yeah.
That gets other people. It's a flywheel.
Yeah.
So I think that these products are very networked overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. On to the final question, and that is, what is one resource that you found really valuable for yourself? Could be a book, podcast, for someone you follow on Twitter, a quote, anything on that front.
Oh, man. A little bit of alpha. There is this app called Rosebud that is an AI journaling app, and you can just talk to it.
Yeah.
And I found it really helpful because I've always been a journaler, but the idea of having to write, and then I'm not able to like look up my past journal entries very easily. So it will allow you to dictate. It has like a response, like it's almost like going to a therapist, like you can go back and forth, and then it will tag everything and give you like weekly insights of like, you were happier on these days or sadder or whatever, and your key wins from the week, which are really nice when like having a lot of stressful weeks.
Yeah.
It reminds you of like, you had these really great moments.
Yeah.
And it holds me accountable. So like I do that every day. Right. It takes 5 minutes and it's really been helpful.
That's a great advice. I think, to be kind of reflective on the goods and the bads.
Yeah.
I'll have to give that a go. But thank you very much for coming on, Austin. I'm very excited for what you and the Doodles team are doing. I can't wait to see all the launches from the app side, the token side, everything on that front. I'll be rooting for you. And thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you. Anytime.
Amazing.